Week 12 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few defense DST units. I have as sleepers this week. The first one, the Atlanta Falcons. So right here, I know this Falcon defense really hasn't been good all season here. But in deeper leagues, if you're in a pinch for a defense and a team that could maybe go out there and get you some cheap fantasy points, it's a decent matchup at a Washington Commander team. And I know this Commander team's won 4 out of 5 ball games. I know Taylor Heineke's been good, but believe it or not, Heineke's fantasy points really haven't been good. So the last few games here for Atlanta, Week 9 versus the Chargers, 20 points allowed an into a fumble recovery. Week 10 at Carolina, 25 points allowed a sack. In Week 11 versus the Bears, a nice ball game, 24 points allowed, 4 sacks, an interception, and a kick return for Cordell Patterson, who broke the record for the most returns. So right here, Washington gives up the 10th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. And we could see this ball game in the mid-teens, low 20s. So right now, they're available in 93% of fantasy leagues. Next DSTs, the Chicago Bears. So the Bears here as a 1 week only type of sleeper option. They got a good matchup at the New York Jets, even though they're moving on from Zach Wilson and Mike White. And I know we saw Mike White last season have some good ball games and actually beat the Cincinnati Bengals in a game, obviously, and they went to the Super Bowl later on in the season. But anyway, the Chicago Bears here, we know they traded Roquan Smith. We know they traded Quinn away as well to the Philadelphia Eagles. But right now, this is a good matchup on paper at the Jets. The Jets are banged up at running back, obviously. Breece Hall out for the season, unfortunately, with the ACL. Michael Carter banged up a little bit in last week's ball game. And like I said, at quarterback, they really haven't found the answer, is this Jet team. So Chicago right here has a decent matchup. The Jets give up the 12th most fantasy points to defenses on the season. And I could see this ball game being low scoring. So right now the Bears available in 91% of fantasy leagues. And the third and final defense DST unit I have as a sleeper this week is the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks here, they surprisingly have had some decent fantasy games over the last few weeks here. Week 8 versus the Giants, 13 points allowed, 5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. Week 9 at the Cardinals, 15 points allowed, 5 sacks, a fumble recovery. And then Week 10 versus Tampa Bay in Germany, not the greatest of games, 21 points allowed and 2 windows. But this week here, decent matchup versus the Vegas Raiders. And we know they got explosive guys on that offense, obviously, like Devontae Adams, still one of the best receivers in the game. And Josh Jacobs having a bounce back big season. But anyway, the Seattle Seahawks here, I think they can make a few plays. Derek Carr, we've seen the poor ball games out of him on and off the season, even though last week he had a nice come-from-behind victory to beat the Denver Broncos in that one in overtime and put up over 25 fantasy points. But anyway, I think Seattle is a sleeper option this week, can make a few plays on Carr. And you just don't know what Carr is going to show up in this one. So available right now in 85% of fantasy leagues. I have the Seahawks DST as a sleeper this week. So that's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers here for Week 12 of the fantasy football season.